I found out my dream job was actually a front for my boss's elaborate scheme to steal from his own company, and now I don't know what to do. Okay, so I know how the title sounds. Trust me, I've read it like 15 times and it still doesn't feel real. But I'm sitting here at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night, drinking my third glass of wine and spiraling, so here we are. I need to get this out somewhere because I genuinely don't know what to do, and I can't talk to anyone IRL about this without potentially making everything worse. Some context. I'm 28, and up until about 6 hours ago, I thought I had finally landed my dream job. I worked? God, I don't even know anymore. As a creative projects manager at a boutique marketing agency called Lighthouse Creative in Portland. The pay was incredible, $95,000, which is insane for someone with only 4 years of experience. The office had a fucking coffee bar with an actual barista, and my boss, Derek, 42M, seemed like this super chill, visionary type who, got it, you know. The kind of guy who'd send company-wide emails about mental health days and work-life balance, with gifs of dogs doing yoga. I started there 8 months ago, and honestly, it felt too good to be true. Which, spoiler alert, it was. How I got here, aka the part where I was blissfully ignorant. Let me back up to January. I was working at this soul-crushing corporate marketing job at a financial services company. The kind where you have 3 different bosses who all want slightly different versions of the same PowerPoint by EOD. My boyfriend at the time, James, 30M, kept telling me I was too negative about work and that I needed to manifest better opportunities. Yes, he was that kind of guy. We broke up in March for unrelated but equally annoying reasons. Anyway, I was doom scrolling LinkedIn one Sunday night, as one does when avoiding thinking about Monday, and I saw this posting for Lighthouse Creative. The job description was basically everything I'd ever wanted: creative freedom, collaborative environment, innovative projects for forward-thinking clients. The photos on their website showed this gorgeous converted warehouse space with exposed brick, plants everywhere, and a team of like 12 people who all looked happy and hip and like they'd never experienced a Sunday scaries in their lives. I applied on a whim at 11 p.m., not really expecting anything. Derek emailed me the next morning. Not some automated response, an actual personal email saying he loved my portfolio and could I come in for an interview that Thursday? I should have known then that the speed was weird, but I was just so excited that someone actually wanted me, you know? The interview was honestly, it was perfect. Derek met me in the lobby himself, already a green flag in my desperate mind, gave me a tour of the space, introduced me to the team. Everyone seemed cool. There was this senior designer, Marcus, 35M, who showed me this campaign they'd done for a local brewery that had gone viral. A copywriter named Jen, 29F, who told me about their unlimited PTO policy. The office dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit, who immediately loved me. Derek and I talked for like 2 hours. He told me about his vision for Lighthouse, how he wanted to build an agency that actually cared about creativity over profit, that treated employees like humans. He asked about my ideas, my dreams, what I wanted to accomplish. I left that interview feeling like I'd finally found a place where I could do meaningful work. He offered me the job the next day. $95,000, full benefits, start in 2 weeks. I cried. Actually cried happy tears in my shitty corporate bathroom stall before going back to my desk to type up my resignation letter. The first few months, red flags I completely missed. Starting at Lighthouse was like stepping into some alternate universe where work didn't suck. Everyone was friendly. The projects were interesting, or at least, they seemed interesting. We were supposedly working with these cool clients: a sustainable fashion brand, a tech startup doing something with AI in education, a few local restaurants and breweries. My job was to manage these creative projects from start to finish. Coordinate with clients, brief the creative team, make sure everything stayed on track and on budget. Pretty standard stuff, but with way more autonomy than I'd ever had before. But here's where it gets weird, and I'm kicking myself for not questioning this sooner. I never actually met any of the clients. Derek always handled client meetings himself. He'd come back with notes, we'd have a briefing session, and then we'd work on the projects. When I asked if I could sit in on client calls to better understand their needs, he'd say things like, "Oh, I want to protect you guys from the boring business stuff so you can focus on the creative work," or, "These clients are super particular about who they interface with. It's in the contract." I thought he was being considerate, protecting his team from difficult clients or tedious meetings. Now I realize he was protecting his lies. The other weird thing, the budgets were huge for the scope of work. Like, we'd do a social media campaign for a local coffee shop that was budgeted at $45,000 for 1 month of content. I remember thinking it seemed high, but Derek would explain it away. "They're well funded, they really value quality, we're charging for strategy, not just execution." And we were busy, constantly juggling like 8 to 10 projects at once. New clients coming in all the time. It felt successful, like we were this up-and-coming agency that was really going places. YouTube, the 12th of June 2025-2040. There were other small things too. Like how Derek was always kind of vague about who actually owned the company. He'd say, "investors," but never name them. Or how our accounting person, Linda, 52F, worked remotely and I'd literally never met her. Or how sometimes Derek would have us create these elaborate presentations and campaigns that would supposedly go to clients, but we'd never see the final implemented workout in the world. Once, I was excited about a brewery campaign we'd done and went to visit the brewery to see if they had any of our promotional materials up. They'd never heard of Lighthouse Creative. I mentioned it to Derek, and he laughed it off. "Oh, they went with a different direction last minute, decided to go internal." These things happen. I believed him, because why wouldn't I? He was my boss, he seemed genuine, and I wanted to believe that I'd finally found the thing I'd been looking for. Beginning of the end, last week. So last week, this new project came in. A rebrand for a tech company called Vortex Innovations. Derek briefed us on Monday. They were supposedly some AI startup. Needed a full rebrand including logo, website, marketing materials, the works. Budget, $120,000. Timeline, aggressive, 6 weeks. The brief was, honestly, kind of vague. Usually Derek's briefs had tons of detail about the client's industry, competitors, target audience. This one was more like, tech company, AI focus, wants to look cutting edge and trustworthy. But whatever, we've worked with less before. Marcus, Jen, and I started working on it. We probably put in like 60 hours each over the course of the week. Marcus designed 3 different logo concepts that were honestly gorgeous. Jen wrote this whole brand voice guide and website copy. I project managed the hell out of it, coordinating everything, making sure we were on track. Friday afternoon, Derek wanted to see what we had so far. We presented everything in the conference room, the logos, the color palettes, the messaging, everything. He loved it, told us we were doing amazing work. Said he'd take it to the client over the weekend and we'd probably have feedback by Monday. Cool, great. I went home feeling accomplished, like I'd really earned my weekend. Yesterday, when everything fell apart. Yesterday was Monday. I came in at 9 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to hear what the client thought about our work. Derek's car wasn't in the parking lot yet, which was unusual. He's usually there by 8:30. But whatever, maybe he had a morning meeting. 10 a.m. rolls around, no Derek. I text him, no response. 11 a.m., still nothing. I'm starting to get worried. I text again, call, nothing. Around noon, Marcus comes into my office looking really weird. Pale, kind of shaky. He closes the door and just says, "We need to talk." Turns out, Marcus has a friend who works in corporate finance. Not anyone at our clients, just someone he knows socially. They'd been having drinks the night before, and Marcus had been talking about work, about this big rebrand we were doing for Vortex Innovations. His friend had never heard of Vortex Innovations. Which, fine, it's a big world, lots of companies. But his friend is kind of a tech nerd and was curious, so he looked it up. Vortex Innovations doesn't exist. Not as a registered business in Oregon. Not as a startup in any tech database. Not as a company with any web presence whatsoever besides a completely empty LinkedIn page created 3 weeks ago. Marcus and his friend started digging. Because apparently when you're tipsy and confused, you turn into amateur investigators. They looked up some of our other clients. The sustainable fashion brand doesn't exist. The website is a template with stock photos. The AI education startup? Registered business, but it's owned by someone named Derek Chen. Derek Chen. As in, our boss Derek, whose last name is Chen. My stomach absolutely dropped when Marcus told me this. I pulled up our client list on my laptop, and we started going through them one by one. Out of 15 active clients, we could only verify that 3 of them were real, independent businesses. The rest were either completely fake or owned by Derek himself through various LLCs. The confrontation, or lack thereof. We called an impromptu team meeting, me, Marcus, Jen, and 2 of the junior designers, Sophie, 24F, and Kyle, 26M. Everyone was freaking out. We tried calling Derek again. Nothing. Then Linda, our remote accounting person, randomly called the office phone. Jen answered, and Linda apparently sounded really upset. She said Derek had called her yesterday, Sunday, and told her to wire a bunch of money to different accounts for project expenses and vendor payments. Amounts that totaled like $200,000. She'd asked for documentation, and he'd sent her these official-looking invoices from companies that, surprise surprise, we now suspected were fake. Linda said she'd done it because that's her job, but something felt off to her, and she wanted to check with someone else at the office. She was worried she'd been involved in something illegal. We all just kind of sat there in this conference room, staring at each other, trying to piece together what the hell was going on. The theory we came up with: Derek has been using Lighthouse Creative as a front to essentially steal money from Lighthouse Creative. He's the owner, or at least majority owner. He's been creating fake clients, fake projects, and fake invoices. We, the actual employees, do real work, which makes it look legitimate if anyone checks. He briefs us on client projects, we create actual deliverables, and then he uses those deliverables to justify huge payments to his fake client companies. Money goes out of Lighthouse, into his various LLCs, and ultimately into his pocket. It's like, he's stealing from himself? But also from investors, if there are real investors. Or maybe it's some kind of tax fraud thing? We honestly don't know. None of us are lawyers or accountants or financial crime experts. We're just designers and writers and project managers who thought we were doing normal marketing work. Where I am now, spiraling. So that brings us to now. It's 2:30 a.m. on Tuesday. I've been sitting here trying to figure out what the hell to do. On one hand, I should report this, right? This is obviously some kind of fraud. People don't create elaborate fake client schemes for legitimate business reasons. If there are investors, they're being defrauded. If it's a tax thing, that's illegal. Hell, we might be implicated somehow, even though we had no idea. On the other hand, I have no actual proof of anything criminal. Just some weird business structures and non-existent clients. Maybe there's a legitimate explanation? Maybe Derek is running some kind of weird but legal business model that I don't understand because I'm not a business person? Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions? Also, and I know this is selfish, but I can't help thinking it, if I report this and it blows up, I lose my job. My amazing, well-paying job that I've only had for 8 months. I'm not going to get a good reference from Derek after accusing him of fraud. I'll have this huge gap in my resume that I can't really explain without getting into this whole mess. And what if I'm wrong? What if there's some explanation and I just nuked my career over nothing? But if I don't report it, and this is actually fraud, and it comes out later, could I be seen as complicit? Could I get in legal trouble for not saying something? The team has been texting in our group chat, minus Derek, obviously, all evening. Everyone's freaking out in different ways. Marcus wants to report it immediately. Jen thinks we should confront Derek first and hear his side. Sophie is worried about her visa status. She's here on a work visa, and if the company implodes, that could be a problem for her. Kyle is just like, I'm putting out applications, fuck this. I tried calling my dad, who's a retired accountant, but couldn't actually explain the situation without sounding insane. Hey Dad, I think my boss might be defrauding his own company through fake clients. Like, how do you even start that conversation? Derek still hasn't responded to anyone. His LinkedIn shows he was active an hour ago though, which is somehow more unsettling than if he just vanished completely. What I think I should do, but I'm too scared to actually do. Okay, so logically, I know I should. 1. Document everything we've found, screenshots, records of fake clients, whatever evidence we have. 2. Consult with a lawyer, maybe through some free legal aid thing, about what my obligations are here. 3. Potentially report this to someone? The IRS? The FBI? The Oregon Attorney General? I genuinely don't know who handles business fraud. 4. Start looking for a new job immediately. 5. Be prepared for this to get really messy. But emotionally, I'm just paralyzed. This was supposed to be my fresh start. I finally figured out my career moment. And it turns out it was all built on lies and probably crimes. I keep thinking about all those hours we put in. The late nights working on projects for clients that didn't exist. The pride I felt when Derek complimented our work. The conversations I had with my friends and family about how great my new job was. It all feels so stupid now. And I'm angry. Like, really angry. Derek seemed so genuine. He talked about ethics and treating people right and building something meaningful. And the whole time, he was using us as props in his fraud scheme. We were just there to make it look legitimate. The worst part. You want to know the absolute worst part? I liked Derek. Like, as a person. We'd have these long conversations about creativity and business and life. He gave me advice about my breakup with James. He remembered my birthday and got the whole office cupcakes from my favorite bakery. When my mom was sick in March and I had to take a week off suddenly, he told me to take all the time I needed and not worry about work. How do you reconcile that person with someone who's apparently running an elaborate fraud scheme? Was any of it real? Was he just manipulating me the whole time to keep me loyal and unsuspecting? Or is he genuinely a nice guy who just happens to also be committing fraud? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. So Reddit, what the hell do I do? Do I report this, even though I'm not 100% certain it's actually illegal and I could be torpedoing my own career? Do I confront Derek directly and risk him destroying evidence or disappearing? Do I just quietly start looking for a new job and try to extract myself from this situation before it explodes? Do I owe anything to potential investors who might be getting defrauded, even though I don't know who they are or if they exist? Am I overreacting? Is there any world where this is all somehow legitimate and I'm just not understanding the business model? I feel like I'm in some kind of TV drama, except it's my actual life and I can't just turn it off. Update. Holy shit. Okay. So I wasn't going to update this soon, but something just happened and I need to write it out. Derek showed up at my apartment an hour ago. I was making dinner, making dinner equals heating up canned soup because I have no appetite, when my doorbell rang. I checked the Ring camera and there he was, looking tired and kind of disheveled. Very un-Derek-like. No one from work has ever been to my apartment before, so the fact that he even knew where I lived was unsettling. I almost didn't answer, but I also kind of wanted to hear what he had to say. Against my better judgment, I opened the door but kept the chain lock on. He asked if we could talk. Said he knew I'd figured it out and he wanted to explain. I told him I'd listen through the door, and if I didn't like what I heard, I was calling the police. He laughed at that, not in a mean way, just this sad, exhausted laugh. Then he said, "I'm not stealing from investors, Emma. I'm stealing from my wife." What the fuck? So apparently, and I still don't know if I believe this, but here's what he told me. Derek's wife, Paulina, 44F, is extremely wealthy. Like, trust fund, generational wealthy. They've been married for 15 years, but according to Derek, it's been a terrible marriage for the last 7 to 8 years. He's wanted to leave, but they have a prenup that's apparently very one-sided. If he divorces her, he gets basically nothing except maybe some minor settlement. Lighthouse Creative is technically owned by a trust that Paulina controls. Derek manages it, but she's the actual owner. He started the company with her money. The fake clients, according to Derek, are his way of siphoning money out of the business into accounts that Paulina doesn't know about. He's been doing it for 2 years. He's not defrauding investors, she's the investor. He's essentially stealing from his own wife so that when he eventually does leave the marriage, he'll have money to start over with. He says he's planning to file for divorce in the next few months, and he wanted to have enough saved up to survive the legal battle and rebuild his life. He apologized for involving us without our knowledge. Said he never meant for any of us to find out. Said the work we do is real and meaningful to him, even if the clients aren't. He actually got kind of emotional, which was deeply uncomfortable to witness through a door chain. Then he asked me not to report him. Said if I did, it would destroy him, and Paulina would take everything, and his kids, I didn't even know he had kids, would suffer through a messy situation. He said he'd make sure we all got severance packages and good references, but he needed time to execute his exit strategy. I told him I needed to think about it, and he left. So now I'm sitting here with this completely different version of the story, and I somehow feel worse than before. If it's true, then this isn't corporate fraud, it's like marital financial subterfuge? Is that better? Worse? Still illegal? I genuinely have no idea. If it's not true, then Derek just fed me a sob story to keep me quiet while he covers his tracks or disappears with the money. The team group chat is blowing up because apparently Derek visited Marcus too, with the same story. Jen says she got a long email from him explaining everything. So he's making the rounds, trying to control the narrative. Marcus's corporate finance friend says that even if the story is true, it's probably still illegal. You can't just create fake business transactions to hide money from your spouse, especially if it's technically her business. It's fraud, even if the victim is your wife. But also, I don't know. If everything Derek said is true, do I really want to be the person who destroys his life and potentially makes things worse for his kids? Even if what he did was wrong? On the other hand, if I don't report it, am I now actively covering up a crime? Even if the crime is against someone I've never met? This is so much more complicated than I thought it would be. Final thoughts, for now. I don't have answers. I'm going to try to sleep, though I doubt I'll manage it. Tomorrow I'm going to call a lawyer, just to understand what my legal obligations are here. The rest of the team is doing the same. Part of me thinks Derek is telling the truth. The story is so weird and specific that it's hard to imagine making it up. But part of me also thinks that's exactly what a good con artist would do. Tell you a story that makes you sympathetic, that makes you question whether reporting them is the right thing to do. I wanted a dream job. I got a moral nightmare instead. If anyone's been through anything remotely similar, or if anyone has actual legal knowledge about this kind of situation, I would love to hear it. I feel like I'm drowning here. Edit. Thank you for all the comments so far. I'm reading everything, even if I'm not responding to everyone. Some common questions. Yes, I'm documenting everything. Yes, I'm looking for a lawyer. Have some consultations set up for tomorrow. No, I haven't made a decision about reporting yet. Yes, I understand that stealing from your wife is still illegal. No, I don't know if Derek's story is true, and I'm not taking it at face value. Yes, I'm updating my resume. No, I haven't been paid yet for this pay period. Payroll is Friday, which adds another layer of, do I even work here anymore? I'll update again when I know more. Right now I'm just trying to figure out how to move forward without completely imploding my life or someone else's. This is not at all where I thought my Tuesday was going to go. TLDR. Dream job turned out to be an elaborate front for my boss's scheme involving fake clients and financial fraud. He claims he's stealing from his wealthy wife, not investors. No idea what to do. Send help. And lawyers. Mostly lawyers.